Hi again. Well, now we will try to understand up, and the reason why we're going to do that is that, well, in the previous episode we said that we need to understand how we go from literal to metaphorical expressions, more specifically how we go from spatial expressions such as up and down, or spatial orientation such as up and down, in, out, on, off, and how those spatial, literal expressions and dimensions of cognition will enable us to metaphorize other abstract representations in the language. So the next thing we're going to do is have a look at a list of phrasal verbs, right, where we have the following phrasal verbs: break up, split up, wake up, come up with. There are some phrasal verbs that are made up of both adverb and prepositions. Fill up, eat up, speed up, cheer up. So we got all these phrasal verbs, and we think that a question that requires to be answered at this point is whether the meaning of up, or whether up entails or conveys the same notion in all those expressions. The answer is no. What we will say is that up basically expresses two notions represented by the categories container and verticality, or we can say container, containment, and verticality. Verticality given the up-down dimension conveyed by up, container given the fact that, as we will now explain, there is a literal meaning of up that is the result of our physical, concrete experience of dealing with containers. So think about the following. If we have a container and we pour liquid into a container, liquid will be visually perceived as going up in the container. So from that notion, we can entail the following meaning. If we pour liquid into a container, liquid goes up. Basically what we're doing is filling in the container with liquid, but our perception of the container and the liquid in the container is that it is going up. From this spatial, concrete experience of the world out there, we can then metaphorize those expressions. We can metaphorize and we can get to these metaphorical entailments. So there are examples. There are basically entailments that are derived from the literal visual perception of a container being filled in with some liquid, where liquid is perceived as going up. Those entailments are the following: speed up, speak up, prices are going up, and cheer up. There is a little clarification that we need to make. It is important to notice that the increment in question can be of different sorts, of different natures, right? Here we mean what we're talking about is an increment in speed. Here we're talking about an increment in volume. Here we're talking about an increment in prices, as is clear from the examples. Prices are going up or prices are rising. And in cheer up, that's a bit more abstract, a bit more metaphorical. We are talking about an increase in well-being, happiness, cheerfulness. Well, now we will have a look at the following slide where we represent the entailment increment.
Why are you speeding up? He has ballooned up, which is politically incorrect. My kid's growing up too fast. Speak up, we can't hear you. Please turn up the volume, it's too low, we can't hear.
Okay, so given these examples, again, what we're saying is that pouring liquid into a container will enable us to perceive the container as, of course, having more liquid going up. We infer the notion of increment or increase. If we go on in that direction and we go on pouring liquid into the same container, there will be a point at which the container will be, or the liquid in the container will reach the top of the container. That physical, tangible experience will enable us to come up with the notion of completion, right? So again, a physical, tangible experience or construction of experience of the world will enable us to characterize metaphorical expressions such as filler up, where what we are discussing is fill up the tank of petrol. That's quite literal because the tank of petrol is basically a container. But then we will pass on to other examples such as drink up your soup or eat up your meal, your pasta, and you should clean up the mess, where basically what should be complete is a task, the task of eating or the activity of eating, drinking, cleaning. So a container can be filled in, or an activity, that is, a container can be complete or an activity can be filled in, right? Metaphorically filled in or complete. Finally, what is interesting to notice from all this argumentation is the fact that there is a very important word and very important category in our analysis. A word that we've been using that I have been using throughout my exposition. That category is the category of entailment. Entailment is a concept that is core to the process of metaphorization because the verb entail means this is the entails some sort of cause-effect relationship between A and B and C and D, right? So what we are saying here is that we go from the literal filling in of the container to the fact that we can entail, derive the meaning increment, and then in turn derive the meaning completion, and in turn derive the meaning change of state. This is something we have not discussed, and that is related to the phrasal verb break up, for instance, and many other phrasal verbs, and that is what we will discuss in the next episode.
Filler up. Fill it in with liquid until liquid reaches the top. I have used up all the paper, meaning used all of it. I've photoshopped the picture up. Completion, perfection, improvement. Eat up your meal, the whole of it. Drink up your soup, the whole of it. Clean up the mess, clean the whole of it. I've messed it up, I've made a whole or complete mess of it.